The Blackthorn Palace had stood at the edge of Ravenwood Forest for centuries, a shadowy silhouette against the perpetually overcast sky. Locals whispered of its cursed history, of how every family who had lived there vanished without a trace. No one dared approach it, except for a group of historians who believed they could uncover its secrets. Among them was Eleanor, a skeptic with a sharp mind and an insatiable curiosity. Eleanor arrived at the palace on a bitterly cold evening. The wrought iron gates screeched as she pushed them open, revealing a gravel path choked with weeds leading to the grand entrance. The palace's facade was a patchwork of crumbling stone and ivy, its windows dark and empty like soulless eyes. A sense of foreboding crept over her, but she dismissed it as nerves. Inside, the air was heavy with decay. The grand foyer boasted a massive chandelier, its crystals dulled by years of neglect. A thick layer of dust coated every surface, and the once opulent red carpet was moth-eaten and faded to a sickly brown. Yet, as Eleanor's flashlight swept across the room, she noticed something peculiar. The mirrors lining the walls were pristine, their surfaces gleaming as if freshly polished. Her colleagues had planned to meet her an hour later, but Eleanor's curiosity got the better of her. She wandered deeper into the palace, her footsteps echoing in the silence. The paintings along the corridors depicted grim-faced ancestors, their eyes seeming to follow her every move. She paused before one, a portrait of a pale woman in a black dress. Beneath the painting, a brass plaque read, "Lady Isolde Blackthorn, 1742. A sudden creak broke the silence. Eleanor spun around, her flashlight trembling in her hand. The door at the end of the hallway had swung open on its own. "Hello," she called, her voice wavering. There was no response, only the faint sound of footsteps retreating into the darkness. Heart-pounding, Eleanor followed the sound, her logical mind insisting it was just the wind or a loose board. The open door led to a spiral staircase descending into the bowels of the palace. The air grew colder with each step, and an unnatural darkness seemed to swallow her flashlight's beam. At the bottom of the stairs, she found herself in a cavernous basement. The walls were lined with bookshelves, but the books were ancient, their leather bindings cracked and titles faded. In the center of the room stood an ornate table, upon which rested a single object, a music box. Its craftsmanship was exquisite, inlaid with mother-of-pearl and gold filigree. Without thinking, Eleanor reached out and turned the key. A haunting melody filled the room, soft and melancholic. As the music played, the atmosphere shifted. Shadows danced on the walls, coalescing into vague humanoid shapes. Eleanor's breath hitched as the shadows began to whisper, their voices overlapping in a chilling symphony of despair. "Leave," one voice hissed, distinct from the others. "Or join us." Panic surged through Eleanor, but her legs felt rooted to the spot. The shadows circled her, growing darker and more defined. One of them reached out, its elongated fingers brushing against her arm. The touch was icy, and pain shot through her like needles. Suddenly, the music stopped. The shadows froze, then dissipated like smoke. Eleanor's flashlight flickered and died, plunging her into darkness. In the silence that followed, she became acutely aware of a presence behind her. Slowly, she turned around. Standing there was Lady Isolde, the woman from the portrait. Her translucent form shimmered faintly, her eyes burning with an unnatural light. "You should not have come," Isolde whispered, her voice like the rustling of dead leaves. "Now, you belong to the palace." Eleanor stumbled back, her mind racing for a way to escape. She bolted up the staircase, each step feeling like a monumental effort. The whispers returned, louder now, urging her to stop, to surrender. She burst into the foyer, only to find the front door had vanished. The mirrors on the walls reflected not her image, but a twisted version of herself, her face pale and her eyes hollow. A hand clasped her shoulder. Eleanor screamed, whipping around to find nothing there. The walls began to close in, the palace itself seeming to pulse with malevolent intent. Her flashlight sputtered back to life, illuminating the words now scrawled across the walls in dripping red letters. "No one leaves. No." As her colleagues arrived at the gates an hour later, they found no trace of Eleanor.